So 9:02 p.m. That's the time the Associated Press declared Governor Brad Little won his second term to lead Idaho. 9:02. That's when they sent out their breaking news tweet. That's literally 2 minutes after the polls closed in the northern part of the state, and about 10 minutes before any numbers were released by the southern part of the state, where the polls closed an hour earlier. And they weren't wrong. Governor Little got more than 60% of the votes. A call so soon, it's not unprecedented, but it is certainly unheard of here in Idaho, even with such a super majority voting conservative. That the race for the top spot in the state was settled before the poll workers in the Panhandle could even close their doors, well, that caught a lot of people off guard. While the last-minute voters were still likely driving home last night. Well, how can they do that? The AP says it will only declare a winner when it determines there is no way a trailing candidate can catch up. And the AP says they have perfected a formula to figure that out. All right, to declare winners, you need numbers, and they add up like this. The Associated Press has reporters in all 50 states. On election night, according to the AP, they use those staff members. Plus, they pay stringers, freelance workers hired for a specific purpose, in this case, to report voting numbers. And there's about 4,000 of those scattered across the country. The AP also applies something called AP Votecast, a research tool first used 4 years ago. It's a gauge of America's voters, designed to show opinions about candidates, issues, and the future of the country. I know, it sounds pretty vague. But AP Votecast uses a combination of mail, phone, and online research from tens of thousands of registered voters, gathered by the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago. Their surveys ask a standard set of demographic questions, age, race, ethnicity, education level, and income. There are also a series of opinion-related questions, the direction of the country, issues they care about, stuff specific to their state. They also want to know who they voted for in U.S. Senate races, or for governor, what party their House candidate belongs to, that kind of stuff. Basically, they are looking for tendencies. All of that information, pulled from dozens of areas around a state, gets randomly mashed together with the actual vote count. An innovative statistical calibration methodology, they call it. Making the call on an election can take hours, especially in close races. But how can the AP make that call almost as soon as the polls close, like they did last night with Governor Brad Little? Wasn't there a third-party factor promising to complicate matters? Well, history is the name of this game. You see, the AP keeps tabs on how a party or a candidate has done in the past. Convincing wins, like with state offices for Idaho Republicans over the past 20 years, qualify a race to be called early. A declaration, sometimes as soon as the polls close, give or take 3 minutes. In 2020, the AP says it was 99.9% accurate in all of its race calls, and perfect in declaring presidential and congressional races in each state. How do we know this? Well, the Associated Press put out an explainer on how they break this all down. Meanwhile, Senator Mike Crapo's race, that was called around the same time, earning him his 5th term in the U.S. Senate. Many of you may be asking, how is this AP Votecast different than, say, exit polling, where they ask people who they voted for as they leave their polling place? The AP admits that kind of polling is out of date. It may have worked in, say, 1972, when 95% of voters did cast their ballots in person on Election Day. But our ways and means of voting are way different these days. According to the AP, the last midterm election back in 2018, 43% of U.S. voters voted before Election Day. Absentee, mail-in, early voting. In 2020, that was up to 70%. In Idaho, we went from 23% in 2018 to 56% in 2020 voting early. Granted, those were the early days of a pandemic in 2020. But the point is, exit polling isn't as accurate as their AP Votecast. And their calling races has become much more scientific as surveys and history can be.